Happy Thursday, stats class. It's Miss O'Neill, and I'm getting ready to go through assignment number 1, which is equations of parallel lines 1. This was your assignment that was posted for Tuesday of this week, April 14th. I'm going to complete about 2.5 questions for you, just kind of getting you started. And remember, the same thing that you're doing for Tuesday is the same thing that you're doing for Thursday's assignment. It's just new questions with new equations. So go ahead and try to see if this video helps you. If you need any further support, make sure you're reaching out to me, okay? So one of the biggest things that you are going to be focusing in on is from the notes that Mr. Parada has given you, parallel lines have equal slopes. Remember, kind of like in the name, when we are thinking about parallel lines, there are two lines that are never going to touch, ever, no matter what direction they go in, okay? So in that sense, think of it as kind of like a race. If two people move at the same pace over and over again, you're not going to have a winner. They're both going to arrive at the same time, okay? So parallel lines have to have matching slopes because they have to move at the same rate. So one of the things that you're going to have happening is when you're working on your assignment today, your goal is to create an entirely new equation that will be parallel to the one that you have been given. You're going to need your slope, your m, and remember, it's going to be equal to the previous equation that you are given in the story. And you are also going to need an xy point to plug into this equation, okay? From your assignment number 1 worksheet, I'm going to be doing question number 5 with you, okay? 5, 7, and I'm going to do a little bit of 8 for you. So number 5, very straightforward. It's going to start you out by giving you an equation of a line, and when you see that word parallel, you have to think same slope. The nice thing about this question is if I look at my equation, my y is all by itself, which means I can find my slope immediately by looking for x and pulling out the value that's next to it. And because I know it's got to be the same, I know that my m is going to be -4/9. If I keep reading, it has to pass through this point, which means 6, -7 is the point we have to use. Not a bad idea to remind yourself which one's the x and which one is the y. And if we are using your point slope formula, this one's a little bit of a flashback from last week. Here's what we got. Our m needs to stay the same. I do nothing to it, just rewrite it. I put my y value in, which is going to be a -7. And I'm also going to put my x value in. And here's what I got. Technically, 100% correct, you can leave it. I tend to like to get rid of the double negatives, just my preference. And here is your final answer. Parada's not looking for any kind of distributing or anything like that. Keep it simple, just plug in what you got, okay? To make it a little bit more harder, those questions towards the bottom of the worksheet are going to make it a little bit more difficult because your equation that I'm giving to you is not in y equals form. It's not in slope-intercept form. So even though I know that my slope, my m, is next to x, I can't use this value because it's next to y. This is not a correct format. So step number 1 is actually going to be rearranging this equation so I can find the true value of my m, my slope. So my equation, -3x plus y, is here. And we're thinking about that idea of how do I get y alone. It's a -3x, so I add 3x. Carried on that y. Don't need to write the plus sign because I can ignore it. And then 1 plus 3x, technically, you can rewrite it as 1 plus 3x. I like to put my x first, though, so I look in front. That's a +3. And if I look in front of the 1, that was a +1. The reason why I prefer to do that is because it's in a normal format of my slope-intercept form. So now I know that m has to be 3. I also know the point that they gave me is 4, 5. So if I'm going to be a parallel line with a matching slope from this equation, and I have to pass through this point, I now have everything I need to fill in this equation. My y value is going to be 5. My m has to remain the same. I'm equal to be a parallel line. And then my x is 4. No simplifying needed. You're just plugging in the information that you have found from your work. Last one on number 8, I'm going to help you find your slope that you're going to need in order for you to create the equation of a parallel line to this equation. But I'm not going to actually write out the full equation. I'm just going to get you started on finding m. A little bit of a teaser. So, our equation is not in slope-intercept form. Y is not alone. So just like question number 7, that should be your first step. Because I don't know what my slope is, I can't be able to create an equation of a line that's going to be parallel to it. So we start by getting rid of your x term. It's a negative, so we're going to make it into a positive. Carry down that 5y. And like I did before, I'm going to put my x value first. If I look a little bit in front, it's a positive. And then that 6 is also a positive number. To finish it off, this 5 has to be removed from the y. It's connected by multiplication, so I'm going to divide it away. That leaves me with y. 4 divided by 5 stays a fraction with an x behind it. And 6 divided by 5 also ends up being a decimal, so we're going to keep it as a fraction. Okay? Now, your equation is y equals, so the only thing you're going to need is your m. And it's always going to be the value next to x as long as you are in slope-intercept form. So here's your slope, here's your point, finish off number 8, and get that equation written.